If you opened Claude Code this morning, you were using a different model than yesterday and nobody asked you. Overnight, Anthropic made Claude Sonnet 5 the new default. The pitch is bold, nearly as good as Opus, the expensive flagship, but at a fraction of the cost. So let's do the real test. What actually got better, what it costs, and the catch that's hiding in the fine print of your bill. Here's what happened. On June 30th, Anthropic released Claude Sonnet 5, its most capable mid-size model yet, and it didn't quietly sit in the API. It became the default for free and pro users on Claude.ai, and it went live everywhere developers actually work: Claude Code, Cursor, VS Code, and GitHub Copilot. Adaptive thinking is on by default, and inside Claude Code the effort is turned all the way up. So this isn't a model you have to go find. For most of you, it's already the one answering. So how good is it, really? On Anthropic's own agentic coding benchmark, the kind of multi-step work an agent does in your editor, Sonnet 5 scores 63.2%. Opus 4.8, the flagship that costs a lot more, scores 69.2%. So Sonnet 5 lands at roughly 91% of Opus, while the previous Sonnet was down at 58%. That's the headline. It closed most of the gap to the top model, and on some knowledge work tasks it even edges Opus out. For everyday coding, the expensive tier stopped being the obvious choice. Let's put that in plain terms. On coding, it's right on Opus's heels, and on some knowledge work tasks it actually pulls ahead. It ships with a 1 million token context window, so it can hold an entire codebase or a giant document in its head at once. And Anthropic says it can plan, use tools like browsers and terminals, and run autonomously at a level that just a few months ago needed a bigger, pricier model. The practical upshot: a cheaper model is now doing work you used to reserve for the flagship. And this is really a pricing move. Sonnet 5 launches at $2 per million input tokens and $10 per million output. That undercuts Opus, GPT 5.5, and Gemini 3.1 Pro. When a model is both near the top on capability and this cheap, something changes in how you use it. You stop rationing it. You start spinning up whole fleets of agents to run in parallel, because the per-call cost is finally low enough that running 10 of them doesn't make you flinch. Here's the rollout, and pay attention to the last line. It shipped June 30th as the new default. Day 1, it was live across Claude Code, Cursor, VS Code, and Copilot, that 2 and 10 price. It's introductory, and it runs only through August 31st. On September 1st, it climbs to $3.15. So the number everyone's quoting today is a promotional price with an expiry date. Worth remembering before you rebuild your whole workflow around it. It's not just benchmarks. Early testers report that Sonnet 5 pushes through complex tasks where previous Sonnet models would stall out halfway, and that it quietly checks its own work without being told to. A team at Zapier put it bluntly: the old model used to stall halfway. For day-to-day automation, this one is a no-brainer. That reliability, finishing the job instead of dropping it, is the kind of thing that actually matters when an agent is running unattended. Now the part that doesn't fit on a launch graphic. Sonnet 5 uses a new tokenizer, and Anthropic says it counts between 1 and 1.35 times more tokens than the old Sonnet for the same text. Read that again, because it matters. A lower price per token does not automatically mean a lower bill. If the same task is now measured as 30% more tokens, some of that shiny discount quietly evaporates on your invoice. Cheaper on the sticker isn't the same as cheaper in practice. So hold both columns at once. The hype is real. Around 91% of Opus, a million token context, 2 and 10 pricing, and always-on reasoning. But the fine print is just as real. It counts more tokens per task. The price jumps 50% on September 1st. It's deliberately weaker at cybersecurity tasks than Opus. And honestly, strong agentic performance is now table stakes. Every lab has it. Same model, 2 very different stories, and you need both to decide. Step back and here's the real shift. For a while, the story was always about who has the smartest model. Sonnet 5 says that race is basically over as a selling point. When every frontier lab can plan, use tools, and run agents, raw capability stops being the differentiator. What's left is cost and reliability, doing the same work cheaper, and finishing without falling over. Sonnet 5 isn't a leap to a new state of the art. It's a very deliberate bet that most of you would rather have 90% of Opus for a third of the price. Here's my one-line take. The real news isn't a benchmark score. It's that you probably don't need Opus for most of your work anymore. For the bulk of everyday coding and automation, Sonnet 5 is good enough, cheap enough, and reliable enough to be your default, and honestly, it already is your default. Just keep one eye on the meter, because that runs on tokens, not on the price you saw in the headline. So here's how I'd actually run it. The default already changed for you, so lean into it. Use Sonnet 5 for the daily grind, the refactors, the automation, the 90% of tasks that don't need a genius. Save Opus for the genuinely hard problems where that last 10% pays for itself. And watch your bill by tokens, not by the advertised rate, especially after September 1st. Play it that way and this upgrade is a straight win. Now I want your call. Are you sticking with Opus for everything or letting Sonnet 5 be your daily driver? Tell me below. And if you want news for developers with the hype filtered out and the fine print actually read, subscribe. This is the Shipyard.